That's no moon. It's a space station.
You guys ready?
Ready. Yeah, ready.
All right. You sure?
Positive.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. A few quick things before we get started. For one, my new book, Bleed Through Tales from Another Timeline, is officially out. It's live on Amazon the very first day. It made top new release in 5 categories, actually. I was blown away by it. And it's still number one new release right now, I believe. But if anybody's interested, you can go to Amazon. That link is below in the description. I truly appreciate all the support and reviews and everything. This is a milestone for me, and I couldn't have done it also without Aaron. He helped me a lot with some of the editing and some other aspects of it. And I'm just really excited to announce that, man, I started this project in 2018 and here we are. So it's official. I'm going to have physical copies at the conference, which also still has tickets available. If anyone is interested in coming out to Rebels of Disclosure in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through the 15th, there are tickets still available. And if you don't want to come the whole time, we have 1 day passes. And if you can't make it in person, grab a virtual pass and come hang out with us online. But this is our last year in Grafton. So if you want to come and you haven't made it out to Grafton yet, I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. And afterwards, we're doing a Cahokia Mound excursion activation. We are going to be going to that site and doing some grid work and just sightseeing, a little field trip to the mounds afterwards. And if you don't know, Cahokia is the Egypt of North America, essentially. It's the largest pyramid site in North America. So we're very excited about that. And today we are joined by our good friend Neil Gaur from Portal to Ascension. We've had Neil on the show a number of times in the past, and we are here today talking about what is evil, light, and the darkness. And it's going to get deep. We're going in, no notes. This is just going to be raw, unfiltered, and we're just going to have a deep conversation about this topic. It was Neil's idea. So, welcome to the show, Neil.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, guys. It's good to be here with you both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great to have you.
Yep, absolutely. So, um, let's talk about why you want to talk about what is evil because
Yeah,
we were chatting, texting, and you're like, let's talk about this. And I'm like, this could be really interesting because it's a hard subject to tackle,
right.
and we can get really deep with it. So, what was your inspiration?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this for many years, but I had a revelation years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, that Portal to Ascension, we even though I have my own beliefs and we have people from all types of walks of life, the platform in general is neutral, where we get to and it's non-judgmental. And then when it comes to a lot of atrocities and craziness that's happened in the world that we dub as bad or evil, um, to bring a bigger perspective of what that really means and what kind of lessons we're getting out of it. So I knew that was a common theme in Portal to Ascension for quite some time. And then over the last few years, yeah, as you already know, the division for the last 8 years has been insane in the world. The judgment of the other has been huge. Um, People that at one point really worked towards loving everyone have now, even when it comes to politics, for example, have completely shunned others that they don't even agree with because of it, because they have labeled them as bad, evil, racist, whatever, all these elements. And now we also have all these atrocities that are being exposed, right? Not that these atrocities weren't just started, they'd been around for a while, but we're in the time of great unveiling. We're in the time of cleansing and purging. So part of that is all of these things coming to the surface. So when it comes to, for example, the music industry, when it comes to um, um, the list of the I don't really want to say the words because just these things are kind of on YouTube, they can get banned a lot. So, but then, when it comes to the island off the coast of Australia and all the trafficking that was going over there and all this stuff, right? And we look at it and a lot of people are like they have justification in being so angry at this. And what I'm looking at is what is the root cause of this rot, right? And what we usually do when it comes to bad, evil, is we throw them away, put them into jails, and actually perpetuate even more darkness because the system's set up to not rehabilitate, but to actually kind of just take away your humanity in general. So the question to me of what is evil, it's like, well, why did evil even exist? What did source, we'll talk about grounded information hopefully today, and we'll go into the cosmic revelations. What was sources or God's original intent? Was it to experience everything unconditionally? And if it was to experience everything unconditionally, is evil technically a necessary evil? And if that's the case, how do we confront it from a place of non-reaction, but have our own inner peace, but still take informed action to bring peace or to bring harmony to what we've now considered evil? Does that make sense? Those are my thoughts on this.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
We can go so many directions with that, and it's so important. And that was a beautiful analysis of exactly what we're experiencing right now. What role does the darkness play? And just as something I thought of it, I always say whenever we're dealing with people in our lives, we'll start off with our personal lives, and then we can go outward, and
Hmm.
and talk about the global darkness. But even somebody in our personal lives that we have labeled as the enemy, that we've frozen in time. They are the enemy. They're the bad guy in my life. You have to ask yourself, why? Why did you do that? Because now what you've done is you've actually inhibited their growth because you are basically freezing them in time to not you're not even allowing them space to heal, right? So if
Hmm.
you allow them to show up in your life as somebody better than what they did to you, then you're allowing them space to actually heal and grow from that. You're not pinning them in time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely does. And so, yeah, it's us casting that judgment on others and realizing, I feel that darkness, first of all, isn't evil. Darkness is a black hole. Darkness is space. Darkness has higher vibrational qualities, and then as it coalesced into density, it became this separation, this division, the projection on the other. So I would say that what I'm realizing from these challenges we receive, right? Say that somebody, like in your situation, that challenge that we receive from that person, if we really see what is that lesson a catalyst to go from, because in this world there's two directions we can go. This is how duality works, in my opinion. Every experience you can either be a victim of or a master of, and a lot of times you become a master is when you learn the lesson, and then you actually have the tools to teach others how to transcend that same kind of situation. Or you can be a victim, and then you stay a victim forever, maybe for lifetimes. But if you become the master of it, not only individually, like we're transcending things every single day, but if humanity collectively becomes the master of our collective traumas, right? What is the next step for humanity? And some people in this world, they say that we're destined to go out into the rest of the cosmos and teach others how to transcend duality and kind of learn those lessons as well.
Yeah. Aaron, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that's very well said. I 100% agree. Um, it's like basically everything outside of us isn't actually outside of us. Let's start there. So that's the illusion, right? So there is no, at the end of the day, all of time and space and all that appears to be outside of us is actually within, because all that is an illusion and you could say a simulation. And obviously there are different levels to that, densities, what have you, where like time and space either ceases to exist or is something completely different than how we experience it in this density. And that's when you get these higher dimensional beings, our higher self, our soul, so to speak, lives outside of this simulation, right? So then it's like, well, then what's the purpose of this if it's not really real, in quotes? It's just like an experience. There's no like inherent realness to it. It's an experience. It's to learn and grow and to have experiences. And like you said, the whole victim mode that our ego gets caught up in because we think this is all that reality exists in. It's kind of like a state of unconsciousness because you don't realize when you're at a lower level of consciousness, you just think whatever you're perceiving, whatever is happening outside of you is all that kind of exists. And all your programs are just kind of running on autopilot pretty much. You're not really doing much introspection or questioning too much. You're just kind of like reacting. You're in reaction mode all the time. And that's when you're going to be in victim mode, because you're just in reaction mode. You're just, oh, I'm always reacting to something happening I think is happening to me, when in reality, everything is happening for you. The universe is always for you, because you are a spark of God. You're not separate from the whole universe, which is all energy, frequency, and vibration of the same energy, the same consciousness, which you could call God or source of the universe, whatever you want to call it. So all that we're doing ultimately is we're having experiences to grow. And then it's like, well, why did we do it in the first place? Or why did God do this in the first place if it's already infinite? Like, what's the point? Well, think about it. If God is infinite, which means everything, infinite possibility, infinite everything beyond what we can even imagine. Well, it's almost like the experiences we're having, if we're all sparks of God, of source, we're source going out and having experiences to understand itself, is the way I look at it. Right. Yeah. So the more you can realize, wait a second, everything is actually happening for me. I can grow through all these things. They're all showing me something about myself. Everything I get triggered by, everything I react to in a certain way, it's not telling me anything about that thing happening to me or outside of me. It's only showing me what is within me. Mm-hmm. And it's giving me an opportunity to choose either love or choose fear, to choose love or choose unconsciousness.
Right.
And really, at the end of the day, everything boils down to a choice of, you can either choose to go in the direction of consciousness or love, which is the same thing, or you can choose to go in the direction of fear or unconsciousness.
Yeah.
And victim mode is you're going in the direction of fear and unconsciousness.
Right. Well said.
And you mentioned the key point here, because after you were done, I was going to ask this question to you guys, but you already answered it. What is the meaning to life? Okay, so let's get to the core of this whole thing, right? Some people say you can't know any meaning to life, but others will say that we give our own meanings to life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the ultimate meaning, which is to experience infinitely. But the thing is, all of those answers can coexist, right? So the way I see it is, what is the original meaning to existence? Okay, and that's what you said, is to experience itself infinitely. Existence wants to experience itself infinitely, and then what happens after existence starts experiencing itself? Well, the best way to experience itself infinitely is to allow free will to your creation. Mm-hmm. And then the free will to your creation now is able to impose their own meaning to their own lives. Right? And so it's like, I look at it like this analogy that I love to say is, when we had the singularity is quantum physics, oneness is metaphysics, the same thing, two different ways of explaining it. When the singularity or the Big Bang, whatever it was, became the duality eventually became darkness and light. The duality eventually incorporated polarity, which then became bad and good and evil and all of that, right? So do you think that when the singularity split into two, that it loved one part of itself more than the other, or did the singularity love both of its parts as equal, right?
Right.
And if that's the case, then, and if singularity is God or source, is that to say that source loves the darkness and the evil as much as it loves the light? And that's when you get into those philosophical questions of like, well, what really is evil then?
Right. And I think it's important to understand too, Aaron said it very beautifully, and so did you, but the dark is always serving the light. And that doesn't, I've said that to people, and some people adamantly disagree with that. But I believe, like, if you look back, I'm just going to use my own life as an example. When I look back at all my darkest moments, I'm so grateful for every shitty thing that ever happened to me that I thought was horrible in the moment, because it literally shaped me into who I am today. And I learned so much through that. And without those trials and tribulations, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have gained that wisdom that you can't teach somebody. You have to earn through experience, right? So I feel like whenever that happens, we can start viewing darkness and evil in the world through a different lens. So whenever we see all these, child traffickers and the pedophiles and all these murderers and all the horrific stuff that, where justice should be rightfully served, we shouldn't we should be careful not to give it too much negative energy, because like you said at the beginning, we're only going to perpetuate that and create more of it. So really, I feel like we can the way I see it is that the universe, our karma, is already taking care of it, right? But it's our energy and how we respond to it that's going to feed it and prolong it, or not prolong it, right? Or accelerate it. And it's based on the individual's reaction to whatever situation they're observing. So I feel like it's just a matter of, it comes down to us individually, and then collectively, if we can all start to hop on that same wavelength, right? And then the collective consciousness can start viewing evil as something different, and just understand that karma is already taking care of it. And we don't have to go out and get revenge or whatever it is that we feel like we need to do. If we feel like that, we have to go within and ask ourselves, okay, why am I feeling that? Which is what you already beautifully broke down earlier.
Yeah. It's what I'm realizing now, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this as well is, like, because of all this, I'm doing a course called the Shadow Workers course, a 3-month course where we're literally going into our own shadows, right? And I'm realizing one of the components is, it's not a battle, it's a dance between the darkness and the light. Shiva Shakti. If you look at all the ancient civilizations, the yin yang, it's like perfectly in harmony with each other, right? Shiva and Shakti, this is the cosmic dance of Shiva. And so that light and dark has been a dance from the beginning. But then we're now on this planet with amnesia. So with amnesia on this planet, we see it as a battle. And it's not that seeing it as a battle is wrong. Seeing it as a battle was needed for us to play the role we needed to play on this stage. That's what we're to do. It's like we were actors that forgot we're acting. And the reason why we had to have our memories wiped clean is because we could act within the play so much more, um, with so much more, what do you call it, involvement, than if we already knew what the answers were,
Right.
you know? And so, yeah, so if Source allowed for all this to happen, these atrocities, Epstein, P. Diddy, all this stuff going on, right? And it's like, how do you get to a point of non-reaction but still hold those atrocities accountable, right? And how do you even reflect at seeing that underbelly of society? What kind of lessons can you get to make a decision for our future to not be that way anymore?
Right.
Right.
I think
Right.
kind of like what I said earlier, you kind of have to struggle through the dark in order to appreciate the joy in life, right? In order to actually understand what that means.
Yeah.
And it's not until you've come out of that hole where it becomes very apparent, where, that gratitude can be experienced. And I think that's so important.
Right. And without amnesia, we wouldn't need that, because we would know the light. So I feel like Earth is almost an experiment. Many experiments here happening here, but one would be, after we've achieved so many great heights in the universe, Earth was gifted to some very advanced souls. And after we've experienced so much and we know so much, I think we like wiped our memories clean. We came down to Earth into the densest of realities, and then we said, let's see if we can still remember the light in a world where everything's stacked against us.
I
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we literally we we join the fight, boots on the ground, right? And we literally walk side by side with that darkness. But if once we start to remember, it allows us to insert love into the program and start shifting that reality. And it's like, it is a beautiful dance, a very complicated dance that we don't even really have words for, but we're doing our best here trying to break it down. But, if you're really going to try and sit with that and meditate and feel what that means, there are no words to express like this dance. It's something that can
Yeah.
only just be experienced.
Right. Exactly. What you just shared about the dark and the joy, knowing the darkness, know the joy. That is, it reminds me of another analogy that I like to share, is that on Earth, the phrase "there's light at the end of the tunnel" is pretty much what Earth is. But you need to go through the tunnel to get to that light,
Right.
right?
That's
And
good.
but the tunnel isn't always evil. it's challenges, it's your own issues, it's insecurities, it's anxiety. It's all the things that are stopping you from being the full version of yourself,
Right.
right? Because all those elements, like I had mad social anxiety most of my life, and the journey to heal from that has just allowed me to have a different sense of confidence on elements that I'm using now for Portal to Ascension. So really learning that and confronting it, and then also sitting with the pain, sitting with the darkness, sitting with the feelings, because this world has been set up in a way where we have so many devices and vices trying to distract us from feeling what is going on within us, that we have too many things to distract us from actually going through that tunnel, and focusing too much on maybe, how it is when I was like this too, focusing so much on like just new age and being super spiritual and everything is great, where you completely ignore one side of the coin. Or I was on the other side as well. Isn't it crazy how the way we correct things on Earth is by going to the other extreme?
Yeah.
Right.
The
Right.
truth is always somewhere in between. You
Yeah.
know,
It's the balance of both, but we
Yeah.
always want to go one extreme or the other and deny the whole other side of the coin.
That's what's happening right now. And just to throw this out there, just one little sense of like the woke movement, right? If you don't mind me bringing this up,
Please.
like, there was, white people went around the world. They created a lot of things, a lot of atrocities happened. So did every other culture, but maybe they're the last rendition of it. And now I see an overcorrection where there's racism towards white people.
Mhm.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right. You're like, guys, that's still racism.
Right.
It doesn't
No, and
matter.
it's
But
okay.
it's okay because it's against white people. Right.
Exactly.
No.
Well, and the people that are receiving it weren't even the actual people that inflicted it in the first place.
Right.
This is
Right.
happening to one of my friends right now. That's why I'm saying it. And I've noticed that, right? And it's just that overcorrection, and then people justify it based on past traumas that happened, that none of the people alive were actually the ones traumatized from it.
Yeah.
Yes, we have ancestral trauma, it goes down, but we weren't the ones like, that were actually in it receiving the beatings or whatever.
Right.
So another thing is the truth is always somewhere in between. And
Right.
that's the whole thing. That's even politics. Far left, far right, it's literally personified in our political movement, how people just go to the extreme. But what I'm seeing now is people are going so far to both sides that they're meeting back in the middle.
Right.
They're realizing that they have more in common with each other. Everybody wants the same thing ultimately, especially when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
People want their rights, people want change and reform. And then most people on earth want love, connection, community, right?
Right.
So when we start
Right.
seeing that these are what we want, and when we see that these traumas, what these people that are people consider complete monsters have done, hurt people. Look at what happened to them. How do we get to the root to create a society where that kind of trauma doesn't happen to children, right? So that they eventually become these people like that. And since we don't focus enough on that, we just focus on, you did this wrong, let me throw you away forever. It just keeps the same cycle, just keeps repeating over and over. And I feel it's time for us to make a shift in that.
Yeah. It's that
Well
slap.
said.
It's that slap a Band-Aid on it mentality that's gotten us
Yep.
nowhere. It's like trying to solve the homeless problem by coming with solutions that reside, that come with the government and the system that we've been handed, right? Like the whole thing's
Right.
got to be erased. Like we need to hit delete and start over if you really want to address it. But if you want to, like, well, Aaron, were you gonna say something really quick?
Well, yeah, I was going to say it's the quote, you cannot solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created the problem in the first place.
Right.
So that's what so many people are trying to do, is like they're still in that same level of consciousness that created these problems in the first place, and they're trying to solve them. And all you're going to do is just keep perpetuating the same
Right.
stuff and feeding it even more. It's like it's like reality, again, going back to the reality that's seemingly outside of us. It's basically just a mirror reflection of what's inside of us, because that's the real reality that always manifests externally, right? So it's like we're trying to change the mirror without changing ourselves. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way, right? It's like I go up to a mirror and I start like drawing a smiley face on it, and oh wait, I'm still frowning, but I drew a smiley face and I did all these things. It's
Yep.
like you didn't change inside of you. So it's like thinking all the world's problems are going to be solved by creating better laws or new laws or enforcing laws or getting the right politicians in power or, you know, just getting a better military or better this and that. And it's like, no, like the world outside of us, all that's going to naturally, come into harmony when we come into harmony. You know, if
Right.
we're at war within ourselves, that's going to manifest as wars externally. If we're out of harmony, if we're out of balance within ourselves, that's going to manifest
Right.
as a world that's in chaos.
Yeah.
And that's unjust and that's oppressive.
And
That's always going to happen, you know. So we got to, you know, and that's what the ego. We have these when you're unconscious in your ego, and then you think you are all these programs. Basically, you have this false identity, and then you cling to that, and then you have to fight to defend that, and then you know, you get all emotional about things that gets the ego triggered.
well,
And that's all the false self. That's not real. It's all a mental program.
yeah, and you just brought up a great point too. Is like this unjust anger, right? This unfounded anger and madness about certain issues. What's happening is like everything. I look at it all as like frequency, like airwaves, right? And like this protests or this movement over here, it's just different airwaves. And if you're not careful, if you're not self-aware, you just kind of get sucked up into that. You get caught in that airwave, and then now you're literally experiencing the collective victimhood mentality of that group, right? Of that movement. So you might be angry like a feminist movement. You might be angry at all men all of a sudden because you weren't self-aware enough to realize that you just got caught into that airwave, right? You got taken away with the wind. And that happens with all this stuff because if you're not, like I say, if you're not self-aware, then you're just a zombie, right? You're just a zombie and you're a pawn. You literally become a pawn in this war that we're caught in the
Yeah.
middle of. And there's so
Right.
many ways to look at it, but also going back to what you said, Neil, about like we don't know what happened to these people. And so this is where I like to hold space, which I know a lot of people have an issue with that, but we have to understand that these people are born into these families and they literally don't know another way of life. I am almost convinced that some of these elites, I don't want to call them elites, but whoever it is, these politicians, these celebrities, the royal family, whatever, they might not even know that there is an awakening happening on the planet right now. They are so far removed from what it means to be human, they can't feel that. They can't experience that. They've been groomed and programmed to literally and chipped and mind controlled and implanted to literally be a slave to the system, a pawn in this war.
Yeah. You guys just said some great points, and one of them was that okay, just the last thing we spoke about. Well, first of all, let's say you're in a courtroom and you're trying somebody because of the evils they've done, and it's almost there's this kind of holier than thou mentality when you're just like you're bad, you're evil, got put away, and better than you, almost like, well, I am a better person because I have more integrity and I have the ability to judge you because of this. But really, it's truly based on the fact that your upbringing led you to a path where you are able to cultivate integrity, but this person never even maybe never even had an opportunity to even know what that is. And then once you're out of being a child anymore, no one cuts you any slack, right? When you become an adult, people judge you because you should have figured this thing out a long time ago. And the element that you said about this, that they don't know that there's an awakening going on. So a few months ago, I was in a Vipassana meditation retreat, the 10-day silent meditation retreat, and did the shadow workers course I'm doing in starting August downloaded to me on like the 6th day. I've been meditating for 8 hours a day, right? And my eyes were closed for 8 hours a day, so I was literally in darkness. And there was two things that were said that came to me. One thing was the guru, the teacher, his name Goenka, he's passed away now, so it's just an audio tape of him every night. And he goes, keep your eyes closed. Do not open your eyes. Do not let the light in. The light will distract you. And I realized in that moment that the darkness is where to grow. The light is a distraction. And not to say the light in general, but even closing your eyes You
Right.
go through that darkness to get the reflection, right? If you go within, you're going into the darkness.
Right.
If you go into the void, you're sitting in the black hole. It's darkness, right? And then in that next moment, I don't know if you ever heard people say this, but some people have made the metaphor that if the light is so strong that in a dark room you put on one flicker of light, the light runs away from it. Okay, and that analogy to me is a proof of the darkness being the other evil, scared of the light, blah blah blah. But what I saw in that moment, like my eyes were closed, and I saw the light, a dark room, the light switch on. And as the light switched on, I saw an apparition of a little child in the corner shivering in fear, right? And I completely started seeing the darkness as a wounded child that doesn't see itself in the light anymore because it's been fragmented so far, so long, so many millennia from the original singularity that it no longer recognizes itself in the light. And in many ways, the false light that is prominent quite a lot doesn't recognize itself in the darkness,
Right.
right? And the false light is trying to project themselves on the darkness. The darkness is trying to hide in the shadows and get whatever it can get out of existence, right? But that's what I see as, these politicians and beings, people as well, is there's a false sense of light, super false, right? And that they also did, and um, their darkness is a quivering little child, right?
Yep.
That just never got seen, never got acknowledged, never got the love they want. Why do most people end up doing what they do? It's because the core needs that we have as a psychological human beings don't get met.
Hmm.
We don't get
Right.
love, connection, we don't get nurtured. Dude, even not being held by your mother after being born could create a trauma that can end up making you psychopathic.
Right.
Yeah.
All documented stuff, right? So it's like once we have this awareness and we start implementing in society, I think we can start looking at things more differently.
Hmm. You made a
Well
comment
said.
about not recognizing yourself in the mirror, in the darkness or the light, if you've gone too far one way. And what happens is there's a trauma response to the light. If you
Mm,
have experienced darkness for so long and good things start to happen to you, kind of like what's happening collectively, like any positive thing in the world stage that's happening right now, everyone's having a trauma response to it because we've been battered and beaten down and lied to for so long that this can't possibly be something good. So we tell ourselves that it's just a same trick again, right? But what if it isn't? And that's how we have to change the way we view it. And you can look at this in relationships too. Somebody who's been abused in every relationship, when a good man finally shows up, they're going to push him away because it's foreign. It scares
right.
them. That light is unfamiliar and they have a trauma response to the light. So there's some major healing that has to go on whenever you find yourself in those situations.
Wow. Yes, man. Because there's this sense of safety that gets robbed from us at an early age from people, right?
Mhm.
So in the situation, let's say that the woman doesn't feel safe around men anymore in relationships because she's been whatever's happened to her, psychological, physical abuse, whatever, and then people don't feel safe taking the advice or listening to the government because of all the traumas that they had. So it's a reprogramming of the nervous system to make us feel safe again is key. But what you had mentioned was kind of connects to the UFOs as well, right? It's like when anything is happening with UFO awareness that's coming out, a lot of people are throwing the baby out with the bathwater rather than dissecting things because of how jaded they are
Yes.
from everything. Yes, there's a lot of manipulation, but a lot of people are completely tossing it out like nothing's even happening, like nothing's even being acknowledged, right?
Right.
And the media is just freaking parroting so many lies that people still have a trust. They don't have a trust in the government, but they have a trust in media still.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
I've seen it. Yeah.
they're trusting the media and a lot of these movements and a lot of hatred, there are a lot of good things happening right now. Maybe there's some things that are corrupt as well. And a lot of people are just jumping on to the fact that they're being told by someone else that they consider an authority that everything is happening to screw you over and take away your rights, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's
Yeah, and
interesting to see.
And it's hard to, we've been lied to for so long that, what they do is actually the truth is everywhere. I was thinking about this the other day, maybe even this morning. I was like,
Yeah.
the truth is literally everywhere. And what made me think of that was the Andrew Basiago testimony where he talked about the photo of Jesus Christ that was taken with the chronovisor, right? And he's like, no, this is like matter of factly a photo of Jesus that's on the internet. But they put out so much other stuff that we don't know what to trust anymore. So we don't even trust the truth when it's right in front of our eyes. And it's
Yeah.
just all right. The truth is literally everywhere. And you can literally Google search a photograph of Jesus from the chronovisor, and it might in fact be the real person, and everyone has just written it off because we've been lied to, and it's just lost in the mix of all these other lies, right? And maybe that's not actually Jesus. I'm not claiming because I don't know the true source of that photo. I'm only going based on somebody's testimony, but it's just an example. Like there is truth everywhere. It's all right there, but it's been lost in the mix and it's thrown in with this bag of lies, and you don't know which one to believe anymore, right? And so
Hmm.
we just distrust everything. Then we begin to distrust the truth. And then that could also have, like, I do this a lot, like, as far as, trying to tune in and connect. I've distrusted so long everything outside of me because my awakening started off with attacks, like through adversity, like psychic attacks and astral attacks and sleep paralysis. That anything spiritual that happens outside of me, I have learned to distrust. So whenever something comes through positive, I'm like, is this a trickster energy? And I just shut it down because I don't even want to go there. So it's this dance you're talking about, right? And we have to learn how to navigate. Otherwise, we'll just stay stagnant.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Um,
I want to go
So-
back to something that Aaron was saying because Aaron mentioned a couple times the simulation, right? And honestly, guys, that's my favorite thing now to talk about. Is this a simulation? Because,
Yeah,
like,
one might.
dude, I feel like we pierced through the veil. There's enough scientific evidence out there that we're not what we think we are, right?
Right. Actually,
And
Right.
yeah, go ahead.
the whole third part of my book is about that in
Oh,
particular,
that's
and
awesome.
I go deep into that, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, can't wait to hear your opinion then, because the ultimately, not to go into the science right now, let's go into what Aaron was saying about how everything's a reflection of what's within. If what really exists are atoms that are made out of subatomic particles, right? The quantum world compared to the Newtonian world, and then the building blocks of the Newtonian world are paradoxical to the quantum world, right? The equations, the building blocks are paradoxical. However, the quantum world literally is the foundation for Newtonian world. How can they be paradoxical? That's the first. That's the first like eyebrow raising thing, right? Like, wait a second. How can a Lego that's made out of water, when you put multiple Legos together, it becomes a solid castle? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So what's happening is that everything is made out of the subatomic world, which is basically a holographic reflection of some type of wormhole projecting out, maybe some sort of code or even a hologram that we have, like a projector screen, right? Like, and Laura Eisenhower said the other day that our DNA is, no, Geraldine Orozco said that our DNA is the holographic projector. It projects the hologram through our DNA, right? So ultimately, if everything outside of us isn't really real, however, it's as real as if you were wearing a virtual reality goggles and playing a game and you could actually interact and it's real for you in that moment, right? Because it's both not real and real, right? Then really what matters is the code. The code is what changes the external reality that you can interact with as if it's real.
Right.
Okay. And so what are we made of? We're made out of literally subatomic code. And what happens when we meditate, we go in, we do vibrational shifts, we heal trauma, we make ourselves feel realize we're safe. We confront all of these fears, is we go in and we shift our own code. And then what happens after that is the external reality has no choice but to reflect what we've shifted within us. We can do it individually, but I feel, as you guys probably feel as well, that when we get to critical mass, and the most of us are doing this on the planet, that's when we get to a point where the external reality will, there will be noticeable changes, in regards to darkness, evil, traumas, and all the crazy things happening in the world.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you
Well said.
basically summarize. Aaron, you just read my book, and like I'm laughing because he's like hitting all these points that I hit too, So I'm not even going to share too much because I don't want to like spoil the whole ending, but I absolutely agree that something of that nature like is happening, and especially the projection part of it. Like it's not a hologram in the sense that it's a piece of like a projector somewhere projecting this hologram. It's being projected through our love, through our DNA, and like that's the projection, right? And that's why I think people get confused. The people that say we live in this, simulation, somehow or another, they're convinced that it's like an actual computer we're inside of.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, okay, well then who built the computer? Like they have these
Right.
explanations, but then they don't have an explanation for the explanation. And like at some point you have to really like go back to love. It always comes back to that, or DNA and love. And there's no real way to understand it, I think, like I said earlier, but we're starting to grasp, I think. And the more we have these conversations, like we're sparking ideas in other people, and then that person comes online and they remember something from some point in their history, right? And they're one of their infinite lives, and they bring that to the table, and then we're piecing this puzzle together, and it changes the whole script, it changes the whole ball game, it rewrites the program, and we perceive, and literally a new reality is projected. But what's happening right now is we were all born into this consensus reality where everybody pretty much agreed on the same thing, right? Because we were just born into this. We were very much I don't think the awakening had began yet. So everyone just kind of believed what they were told. And we were at a global consensus reality. Now the awakening is creating pocket realities all over the world. And these pocket realities are little mini consensus realities where the collective belief among that group of people is literally creating what they're experiencing. And it's no one knows what to believe in anymore because everyone is tapping into things that other people they're unheard of for some people, right? And it's really going to be difficult to navigate these times, but we just have to be extremely open-minded and just have the humility to self-correct every time we're proven wrong, because we are going to be proven wrong.
Yeah. Exactly. I feel the same way. And what you said about the different communities and how their collective consensus belief systems are shifting now, that's even like an Edgar Cayce prophecy of the splitting of countries and old worlds and people moving around the planet to be around communities that are more like-minded. And when we do that and we get together, we create breakaway kind of frequency bubbles, right? Where everybody is projecting their own reality. And what you said about us being a computer, I used to be very careful over the years talking about holographic universe and simulation, because people would think that I'm watering down the beauty of what we really are, because they would have that kind of beliefs of, oh, like a computer, because that's how our limited perspective works. We aren't able to understand a greater understanding of it. So what I say is I always say, or like organic holographic projection of consciousness, because like that explains it a little more. It's some sort of like, we're alive. It's alive.
Right.
And what happens is every being that becomes sentient has the original spark of source in it, creating in its image. And let me experience myself in something other than I've created. So why can our dimension possibly be that, right?
Right.
And what computers are, what phones are devices that we've created dimensions where data is stored. Right. So we are doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing that's happening to us, but we have very limited capabilities compared to the intricacies of what we truly are.
Yeah. And then we have to ask ourselves, why does a computer always seem to be the perfect analogy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question, right? And when you start asking that question, you inevitably come to the conclusion that this is some form of a program, a simulation, a holographic, whatever it is. And maybe we don't have the proper words to describe it, but we're understanding that there is a connection, right?
Right. Even our genes have codes in it.
Our cities look like circuit boards, quite literally are circuit boards. We're batteries,
Yeah.
antennas. We're all the components needed for a computer.
Right. And, our brains produce an electricity in our brains through an acid. That electricity goes down our brainstem into our spinal column using our nervous system, carrying what? A very mild electrical current. That electrical current goes to where? Every organ in our body, making our organs exist and be are alive, right? And that's why they say you're not dead unless you're brain dead. The reason for that is as soon as you're brain dead, the electrical current from your brain stops fueling your body.
Right.
So we're quite literally batteries.
So,
yep.
that ankh behind you, that just
Yeah.
reminded me. I just got back from Egypt and it's everywhere, right? And they call it the key
Yep.
of life, and it's used in reincarnation or whatever that afterlife process. So okay, what in your opinion, what does the ankh represent? And how does that tie into all this? Because there is something so much more to, well, Egypt in general and
Yeah.
all the ancient cultures, but that in particular, what do you think?
Man, the ankh is my favorite symbol for sure in the world. And I first I'll start out with a disclaimer that even my perspective is probably very limited compared to the intricacies of what it was for. Because when you go to Egypt, it's just freaking everywhere. You know, it's a lot, but it's like way more than you can even imagine.
Right.
There's even a door, right? You might have seen it. I forget where it's at now. It's 7 doors within each other. Okay, 7 doors, like a Stargate, and
Yeah,
on
like a
top of
false.
it, there's 7 ankhs, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Palladian connection, who knows? But the ankh has been said. I'll give 3 different things that it's been said to been used for. Well, one is the symbolization of the masculine and the feminine coming together. You know, obviously we have Christianity has the same symbol, which I believe derived from the ankh, not the crucifix, but it became patriarchal, so it only represented the phallic symbol, right? And
Mhm.
and that can be proven with the fact that Yeshua spent a lot of time in Egypt, and the number one Essene community was in North Egypt, and so the masculine feminine energies combined, and then also a tuning fork, a vibrational medicine where they were able to utilize this technology to help heal all types of ailments and alignments, maybe even achieve certain states of consciousness. And then there's another belief that it was used for channeling sexual energy, that after an orgasmic state, that you were able to harness the energy with the original tuning forks and be able to circulate it around your own body. So those are 3 different ways. Now, going to museums like the British Museum, where you see actual 2,000, 3,000-year-old ankhs, you see jade ankhs, you see ankhs that obviously are just symbolic um, artwork from the ancient days, right? And so a lot of people think that that's all it really was. But my belief is that Egypt goes back way further, at least 13,000 years ago. And a lot of the symbols that we see 3,000 years ago are depictions and artwork of an older technology, right? And maybe the original technology has been lost to time.
Yeah. You know, whenever you talked about the ankh being used to harness the sexual energy after an orgasm or whatever, I got chills like that. I felt like absolutely that's one of the uses for it. And we don't understand sacred sexuality like the ancient cultures
No.
did. You know, we actually we've been so far removed from that, and that's by design, as we know. You know, they promote this hypersexual society based on all these immediate, like instant gratification, right? And like the whole image of love and sex and everything has been inverted. So we've been so far removed from sacred sexuality. It's something that I even struggle to tap
Yeah,
into,
man.
you know, because we're just in this world where it's everywhere. You really have to find your lane if you want to like experience what we're here to experience for real, you know?
Yeah, the Egyptians, this is a side note here, but they're from my research, being Indian, I was looking into how the Indus Valley civilization came into existence, and I saw that a tribe from the south of Egypt went to the Indus Valley, and they probably contributed a lot of information there. So I think Tantra actually originated in Egypt, including a lot of things on the chakra system. But one thing that I noticed, just researching Egypt for years and then being there, is that these people really had a right left hemisphere balance going on. Where, I mean, it's pretty much Egypt is just a piece of art, but not just art, architectural genius. Well, what's art? It's feminine creativity. What's architecture? It's mathematics, right? So they incorporated, even in their the Eye of Horus, for example, the the portions and the sizes of each part of the Eye of Horus represents a musical interval: 1/8, 1/32, 1/16, right? And then obviously it's also a cross intersection of what our actual pineal gland and pituitary gland looks like.
Right.
So what did they do? They used artwork, the feminine energy of creativity, in order to show the science of what we truly are, which is the masculine energy, the linear. And I feel the reason why a lot of us can't even fathom what they actually were, what they did, is because we're not operating at the same level of brain coherence.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
Yeah, and also, you know, this is somebody said, I don't even remember where I heard this, but they said the reason you can't remember your dream sometimes, it's not that it's lost forever. When you wake up, you're just existing in a different frequency than a dream. And they said if you can
Mm,
find a way to reconnect and with that frequency that you experience that dream, you'll remember and perceive that dream. Well, that's the same with all ancient cultures, all
yeah.
parallel lives, everything, anywhere, right? It's all just being a frequency match. So whenever we go to these sites, those frequencies are right there. And if we can figure out a way to like calm our minds and tap into that frequency, you're remembering it, right? And you're bringing that information back into this timeline. And it's really interesting. What do you see in Egypt? You see a very beautiful civilization that was taken over by darkness, and everything has been defaced and horribly dismantled, ruined, attacked. I mean, there's a bigger story there than any of us quite understand. But we're there to remember that, right? We're going back to these sites to tap into that frequency. That knowledge isn't lost forever.
Mhm.
It's just we're not existing in that frequency until we find it. Then we remember, then we see it. You can start envisioning what it was like.
Exactly, which is also what they say, what I believe about ETs and UFOs. We're not at the frequencies where we're able to perceive the fact that there's probably thousands of light ships around us.
Right.
You know,
Oh yeah.
maybe one day we'll shift into that frequency and we'll be like, oh my God, we're surrounded by UFOs.
And I think sometimes it happens with all of us. And when we have like a mass UFO sighting at a conference, maybe
Yep.
that's exactly what happened.
A frequency shift.
Everybody just frequency shifted, and we all see like it, but we don't realize it
Right.
because it looks physical now.
Yeah.
Right. Like our first conference, remember, it was literally, it wasn't even the first day. It was the day before when there was like, I don't know, 30 people there maybe.
Mhm.
We had a skywatch that night, and it was like being at ESETI. It was like that level of activity going off. And that's not normal for Grafton, Illinois. Like you go there in a normal random day and you're not going to see, you might see like one or two maybe, but you're not going to see, I mean, we
Yeah.
saw like
Right, it was off the chart.
probably
Yeah.
almost
It
100. I don't
it
know.
was memorable enough that we're still talking about it.
Right.
Well,
So like that had to have been because we were all there, and like maybe it's like you said, our frequency, we were kind of like activating each other, and our frequencies raising to a point where we can just see what's always there in a higher,
Yeah.
slightly higher frequency.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, as like if this is some sort of simulation, then you could shift your own code by going within in those moments to get to a point where you can see the other layers of the simulation. It's almost like a glitch in the matrix where the coding is so has been shifted so much that two levels of the game start merging.
Mhm.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
Right.
that's what's going on.
yeah,
And to bring it home here, as you were saying, as we're speaking about Egypt and all this, y- so when we have the right left brain hemisphere come online at the same moment, right? We get into the gamma wave, the genius brainwave state. Okay. And with that, that's when all that gifts start coming online. Like for example, the telepathy tapes, people now being able to prove that telepathy is real, and so much more that is happening there. What the ancients called the CD powers in India, or the supernatural powers, but truly just the fact that we are Neo in the Matrix and we can code this Matrix to do whatever. Well, why is it that birds can fly and we can't? Well, consensus reality dictated something other than that. And so as these things come online, we start restructuring society and seeing it in a different way. And there's definitely been a movement for thousands of years to maybe intentionally and somewhat unconsciously take us to a point where we're so one-sided on our brain that we don't, and both parts, even when we do use the other side of our brain, are so limited in their expression that as we start aligning and activating these things, which is happening, as I said, the telepathy tapes is one of the proofs of it all. We get to a point where we start looking at reality in a different way, right?
yeah,
And that includes what good and bad is, what this game of polarity is. We may shift into a new dimension, and in this dimension, duality will still exist, but the challenges we can face and confront aren't going to be the same as this one, right?
right.
Evil as we know it probably can't even exist in that reality, in that dimension, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
So, but what's the first thing, as we've been saying multiple times? The only way to get to this point is it all starts with the inner work.
Yeah. Yeah, so a few things.
Exactly.
First of all, the Monroe Institute, that's what they do, right? You can do the
Mhm.
meditations, and it's balancing the right and left brain, the hemispheres, right? And then they even have a school, like an actual physical campus you can go to. And really tap into your abilities, right? And start developing these skills and coming online. And people are achieving things such as like levitation and amazing things. And it's all about balancing the hemispheres. But also, you said about creating a frequency where these things can exist. Well, this is the whole game, right? This is the whole trick. They pump that frequency out constantly into the false matrix grid that encompasses the planet, right? And it's competing with a natural grid that's probably been hijacked, but it's competing with it in the sense that it's coming back online and people are doing this grid work, right? So the only reason that darkness can exist there is because that frequency is allowing it to. And but we've also been tricked into assisting in that frequency, right? Because of all the propaganda and all the movies of the dystopian timelines and the post-apocalyptic wars and all these, all this stuff. It's at all costs, they cannot let us believe that there's a positive future, right? They pump that negative dystopian timeline into the collective so that darkness can exist. So they can come here and enjoy what Max Spears used to call the pleasures of the flesh, because some of these dark, lower density beings like being in the physical body, and they like the sex, and they like the food, and everything that that's been inverted. Go
Lower
ahead.
3 chakra,
Yeah, yes.
but like the negative version of
The
lower
negative version of it. Yeah.
not out of like love is a completely, they can't exist in that frequency. So if we all can like anchor in the green ray in the love frequency, right? It's game over. If enough of us, it's like done.
But
right?
they've become addicted to the pleasures of the flesh, and they don't
Right.
know that light, like Neil said earlier, they don't recognize themselves in that light. So they double down on the darkness because they quite literally believe that like it's game over for them. They don't know how to respond to any other frequency.
Right. The craziest is like, how insane is it that there's a few people, yes, there might be thousands of them, right? Politicians, people, so-called elite, all that have dictated for billions of people to be in this frequency, right?
Right.
Partly that's one reason. And then there's the meant to be aspect of it all, that we're in this lower consciousness reality. We're in the age of forgetfulness. The energies were ripe, right, for that to have happened. But now we're in the upturn in consciousness. And what happens at the end of one age, beginning of a new age, is the old system needs to crumble. And so that's what we're witnessing right now, is the crumbling of it. And when we see all these things come to the surface, like the atrocities that's been committed by celebrities, Hollywood, musicians, politicians, right? So much is coming out. Before it couldn't come out like that because we weren't able to disseminate information at such a mass level, right? What's coming out, I see a spring cleaning happening, that we are basically, it's like, here you go, this is what's going on in the underbelly, deal with it so you can move into this new reality, because you can't take your skeletons with you into this new reality. And these are collective skeletons of the human consciousness, and we're all a part of it, right? So as it comes to the surface, the question really is, how do we reconcile with it rather than becoming so inherently angry that we stop the growth that it's supposed to lead to? Because also another theme, the Kali Yuga was the age of authority and hierarchy. The next age, the Dwapara Yuga, is the age of sovereignty and energy, right? So what needs to happen at the end of the Kali Yuga is the three themes of the Kali Yuga need to be destroyed. This is from ancient Indian texts. This is how it works with the themes. The three themes: hierarchy, authority, delusion. So hierarchy, authority, and delusion all need to be destroyed right now. And who is Kali? Kali is the freaking destroyer, the black hole that recycles universes in Indian texts, right? That's the darkness. So delusion, thank God that's being destroyed, right? So we can have some freaking light. And then the hierarchy and authority. People have given so much up to politicians being better than us, musicians being better than us, celebrities being better than us. To me, it makes perfect sense. Then those are the three worlds that we're being exposed more than anything else.
Right.
Because when you're no longer looking at Brad Pitt as the person that you want to be like, right? Who's left, right? We start realizing that, hey, what we thought these people were isn't the case. Well, I'm actually a good person. Like, let's bring it back home.
And now we all know that Neil wanted to be Brad Pitt at one point.
And another way to put it, right? Another way to put it is, in the deep unconsciousness we're coming out of, it's like you're just always giving your power away to things outside of you.
Yep.
And a way that manifests is you just constantly obey authority. Authority's always right. Whatever I'm taught and told is the truth. Whatever I'm told is good and bad is good and bad. Go down the list, right? Whatever I'm told I need to do to have value, I need to do. My value comes from what I do, my job, blah blah blah, status. These are all versions of manifestations of giving our power away because we don't know who we are. We're not conscious of like, wait a second. What is even like the concept of authority? Like, wait a second. Why am I obeying authority? Why do I automatically have to believe what they say and do what they say?
Right.
It's like I'm starting to see people wake up and be like, oh, I am my own authority.
I don't have
all
to
that
pay my
exists.
taxes.
Right. The only reason the system works is because we're all believing we have to obey the system and do the things it says and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, why do governments have power in the first place? Oh, because the 99.99999% that aren't in the part of the government give it power and obey what it says. It's like, well, what if we collectively create a different system?
Right.
That's like more conscious, more based in love, more based in benefiting all rather than just siphoning off the majority.
Man.
And
this system is designed to just help a few. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And can we create something that works for everyone?
And I think I have a solution for that, or an easy way for people to start practicing that and bringing it into reality, right? And manifesting a difference. And it just comes full circle to what I said at the beginning about, viewing people in your life and how they show up in your life. So let's just say I've already told myself that my neighbor who lets their dog shit in my yard is the enemy. And every day that motherfucker is going to come and let his dog shit in my yard. And I'm so mad at him. And I get angrier and angrier every day. And inevitably every day it happens, right? But if you shift your perspective and you let that neighbor that you now painted as an enemy, if you let him show up as somebody different, if you start to see him as a loving being with a beautiful soul, and he may have just been unaware and he's not realizing that the dog that's actually pissing you off or whatever, you just start to paint him in a new light. I guarantee you he will show up in a new light and he will be a different character in your life, and he won't be the enemy anymore, and you might even become friends with him, or you might just move away from that frequency, and you might not even perceive each other anymore. But the more you feed it, the more it's going to keep happening. So that's with one person. You can do that with the government. You can do that with the cabal. You can do that with everything in your life.
You got to say, that's what I think Joe Rogan does so well, Because like, honestly, dude, like he talks about like Kamala and other people in a way where he's not angry.
Right.
He like says it in a way where he's literally like, yeah, I just want to have a conversation with him. I won't say those things. Let's just like have a conversation, talk like humans. And there's so many different people that he has on his platform that literally hate each other, and he still like communicates with them. And I actually learn a lot from him just seeing that. Like, well, people are a product of their environment and situation. Even when he talks about pharmaceutical companies and what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's because you can get really angry with it all, but to get to a point where you're like, wow, when money comes down to it and greed gets to it, you really get to that dark place, you know?
Right. Yeah, and that's a whole other layer to this conversation is money, right? And monetary system and how it actually, its role in the darkness and the evil. And
it's like the more you can understand the dark, the more you can it's all about understanding. You can understand it, then it no longer triggers you like it used to, because you're like, oh, I understand why they're doing what they're doing.
It's about knowing your enemy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the seeing yourself in it too, like how, like, because we all have these dark parts of ourselves that we suppress or maybe we've healed, and it's like seeing that we all have these different elements, but they manifest in different ways. Some of us, fortunately, most of us don't get to a point where we commit hardcore crimes, right, against it all. And so that's part of my course I'm doing, the Shadow Workers course for 3 months, is going to be not only individually like what our own shadow is, but we're going to bring up things. We're going to have a whole like 30-minute discussion just on Epstein. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, and what that I'm going to put like slides up on the screen and then just be like, okay, tell me everything that comes up for you right now in the chat room. I might even throw the word Trump up there. You know what I mean? Just to see what happens.
That's great though, because it brings a
Right.
real world situation into this spirituality. Right?
Exactly.
And
you got to ground it in, man. It's because that's what's inspired this for me. Is definitely the universal understanding was how it started, but seeing it manifest in the world right now through politics and through P. Diddy and Epstein. Those are the three things that really inspired me to create this course.
Yeah.
And people are just so like in fear and and somebody told me a long time ago that if there's going to be something that's infiltrated the most in the world, it would be this world that we're in, you and I, like especially UFOs, because it's the biggest truths in the world are hidden within that, right? And then within consciousness, corrupting consciousness. So divide and conquer has been the name of the game for so long. And it seems like in this world of people waking up, there's been an infiltration of that in the last 8 years that's been hardcore from multiple levels and directions. So I want to do this, have this opportunity for us to really sit with what is the root of that original wound and pain? Where does it come from when I see this? What am I afraid of? Right?
Yeah.
Those kind of reflections. And you might still not like the person, but you'll have a better understanding of yourself in the process.
And maybe not what are you afraid of, but why are you afraid of it? And then on the other hand, what do you want in life, and why do you actually want that? Why do you think you want that?
Right.
And you have to get to the root of even your desires, not just your fears.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And it's so easy to talk about this stuff, and people are going to hear this conversation in this podcast, and it might not make sense to them, because really you got to go out there and, like, everything we're talking about, we've only gotten to this place through experience. We've been through that darkness and we live to tell about it, right? And we can come to these conclusions, but some people are out there aren't at that point in their journey yet. So it's really interesting how this conversation is. I'm really interested to see how it's going to be received.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And it's just there is no answer. Maybe there are on some levels, but we're just exploring what the answers are. And it's just philosophy, right? We're having these philosophical questions.
Right.
Because we're getting to there's a collective existential crisis going on, right, on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, COVID was a huge one as well, right? And now it just continues a huge existential crisis. And that means we're just rediscovering an identity of who we are, because a lot of what we thought we are is not really what we are, right? And a lot of what a lot of individual people, they believe they are what they do, right?
Right.
We're so much more than that. And in my opinion, we're multidimensional beings that have the ability to connect to multiple dimensions while still existing in this third dimensional reality.
Boom.
Right?
Boom.
That's a premise of my book.
Here we go.
We're not even our own body.
Right.
Our body is just an experience the real us is having. You're not anything that exists on a 5 sense level at all, but that's the programming, right? That's what the Matrix tries to constantly program, and you are that. Your worth comes from that.
But
in total inversion.
But you have to be careful too, because you can tell yourself that, okay, I'm not my body, but also you have to take care of your body, because you are like, it's such a weird, it's that dance, right?
Right.
Yeah, you can't just neglect it because you can't neglect your life because you learn that it's a simulation. It doesn't make it any less real. Like, it's all here.
Right.
We're still paying bills. Like, we got to pay our electric bill. We got to do.
It doesn't mean to avoid or think, oh, this isn't important at all, so I can do whatever and it doesn't matter. No, like,
Right.
But the way I like to think of it is like, it's like you get into a car, like getting into the third dimension in this body is like getting into a car that you're renting. Well, you got to take care of that rental, right? Still, it doesn't mean you can just wreck it and go around and do whatever the F you want. It's like, that's going to have consequences, right?
Unless you get full coverage.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Unless you get full coverage.
And then what did Jerry say? Then I'm going to beat the hell out of this thing.
Right.
Dude, that's it, man. It all comes down to a paradox. Everything is paradoxical. We exist and we don't exist at the same time.
Right.
And if we can walk forward embodying that paradox, then, you can take care of yourself and have the perspective that you're everything at the same time.
Yeah. And Yeah, absolutely. And I am going to bring this a little, I'm going to bring this home with a 3D
Yeah,
piece of
please.
information. Um, Aaron shared this with me this morning. I'm sure you might have seen it going around the internet, but the White House released a statement talking about the technologies that they have available to them. And I'm just going to read this. Advances have not stopped, but something has gone wrong. Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity. That's straight on the White House's website today.
Really, bro?
They just
Yeah,
told you
I did not know about
it's
this.
they
on the
just told
White
you
House
we know
website.
how to time travel.
Manipulate time and space.
Yeah.
Well, what a trip.
Our
Dang.
technology permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated. Come on.
I gotta
Like
look. I gotta.
if
Can you
you
send
ever
me that later?
need evidence that something is changing, that's it.
Yeah. Can you
Yeah,
send me
yeah,
that offline?
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just-
I'll send it to
yeah,
you.
for sure.
Or you could find, and I posted it on social media today.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people on X sharing it around.
Right.
Ashton Forbes shared it.
Right.
Dude, that's amazing because I remember when the Sun came out in 2017 with an article that said Bigelow Aerospace in Las Vegas had all these technologies, and then at the bottom of the article was this little ticker thing that said, including the technology to manipulate time and space.
Really.
You know? Yeah.
It's just
So it could be connected to disclosure, right? Definitely
absolutely.
good. It is.
Right.
Absolutely. It's all very real, and I love the fact that it's coming out. And yeah, I'm just so excited that we're at this time. You know, if you understand, like if you're at a point to be, like I said, self-aware enough to perceive the bigger picture, you know that there is a very bright
Right.
future ahead. But if you're not in those frequencies, then you might only be seeing the darkness, and that's why we're having this conversation to
Yes,
help
man.
people realize, like, it's only going to show up the way you perceive it. It's much energy. Your attention goes where energy flows, right? So,
Yeah.
that's true for all walks of life and everything that we experience.
Exactly, brother.
Yep.
Well, Neil, tell us about your course again. Tell people how they can
Yeah.
find you, your website, everything you have going on. A little shameless self-promotion.
Okay, so you can find everything about what I'm doing at portaltoascension.org. We have you can sign up for our newsletter. We do 70 events a year. We have a lot of things happening. Taking a break this year from live events, but we do have a monthly event in Sedona. Next year, we got San Diego, Glastonbury, England, Sedona conference. We're doing a 10-day cruise to Greece and Turkey. We have a music festival in Tulum that we're creating. So you can go to portaltoascension.org, sign up there to get all the updates on what we're doing. My website that I've now created, finally have my own website, is Neil, Neil, Arcturus.com, NeilArcturus.com. And on portaltoascension.org, under upcoming events, is the Shadow Workers course. Check it out. And there's a part on that website that literally the main part is who this course is not for, because you need to know what you're about to get into. This is not for the faint of heart. This is for people really willing to confront things on a deeper level. And a lot of people think they've done the shadow work, but there's collective shadows. There's so much depth. Shadow doesn't just mean evil and darkness. There's challenges. This how do you confront your challenges? How do you become the stillness? How do you become the eye of the storm? When the world outside of you is the storm, how do you stay centered? And I'm not going to say I'm a master at that. I literally created a course where I'm going to be alongside everybody else learning as well.
Right,
So
right.
I'll be in it. We'll be doing these things together. And really, I have around 6 different guests that are amazing people that are going to be on there. There'll be breath work, a part of it. There'll be exercises. So if you're interested, portaltoascension.org under upcoming events, and you can check it out there.
Yeah, and just make sure you give me all the links that you'd like to put in the
Yeah, we'll
description,
do,
and they'll
brother.
be down there. And yeah, shadow work is like peeling back layers of a never-ending onion. I mean, that's the best way to
Yep.
describe it. So,
Yes, sir.
I mean, quite literally, like once you think that you've healed an aspect of something. Just a really quick example. grieving my mother when she passed away when I was 24. So many times I thought, okay, like I'm good with this, and then another layer would surface,
Mm,
and I'm like, oh, this grieving process is a lot deeper than I ever fathomed. But until you start doing the shadow work, you may never see the depths of those layers, right? And that's when it's actually beautiful. Whenever another layer comes up, that means you're making progress.
right. Yeah, and
Eh,
in this course we get to just be this. I'm limiting it to 33 people, and just because we want to have that intimate setting, and just go deep into it. What I really want to bring into the world this year, obviously, Portal to Ascension, we do a lot of information and we also do experiences, but I'm actually leaning a little heavier into the experientially oriented events in the next few years. Where I just did a 2-week chanting workshop. We're gonna do a breath work experiences, and then this is part of that as well.
Hmm.
I feel like we can intellectualize these things all day,
Yes.
you know, but until we get to the root of it and make it practically embodied in our body, we can't integrate that information that we're learning.
Right. Aaron, what
right.
was our conversation just the other day
Oh,
about
sorry. Go ahead.
what was our conversation the other day, Aaron, about the conferences? Like, I was like, the classroom style conference, like that setting, I think we're moving on from that. And it's going to be more about like boots on the ground, actionable change, like,
Yeah.
and going and doing things, right? Putting, like you said, you can talk about it all day, but it's time to like go apply that and go, be more physical with this and more actually like moving
Yeah.
your body instead of
Yeah.
sitting still all day and taking in the
Mhm.
information.
I think there's a place for both, but because there's always more people, especially there's always more people, where we were 10 plus years ago or whatever, when like we're just waking up and like, oh, I want to go to a conference and learn more and,
Right.
get all this information, get these downloads. But there is, like you said, I think now we're more so than ever before, we need to get out there and not
Yeah.
just sitting and taking in information.
Exactly,
Like,
man.
get out
Especially
there
because
in the
there's
world.
more triggers in the world now.
Right.
There's more people are a little more upset than they were a little while ago.
Right. Right.
So it's like getting an opportunity to really do the work is key. And in your situation, what you're creating, I believe, are events that have nature component to it,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
When itself is one of the most healing modalities that exists.
Right. Just
Exactly.
people want to see this stuff. They want to get out there. They want to move. They want to, experience like traveling the world. And sometimes they don't have they have the perfect excuse to go to Hawaii now because your favorite conference is going there or whatever,
Yeah.
It gives people an opportunity to break their comfort zone too. So I like that. And I think that's where life begins is outside your comfort zone. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as we close out, I just want to say thank you guys again, real quick. And us, I mean, we've known each other for quite a few years now. I think like 8 years. I don't
yeah,
know how long you been
quite some
doing the
time.
podcast.
2019, we started.
6.5
yeah.
years about.
Yeah,
But
well,
I knew
you guys,
you before that. I knew
yeah,
you
for sure. We met before in
before
person.
the podcast.
And I'm just gotta say, hats off to you guys because you've freaking done some awesome stuff. I've seen your growth. I check you out. I've seen your growth not only as with the podcast, but individually in what you present as well. And now you're doing this conference and everything. So I just want to say thank you so much for having me. And you guys are doing an amazing job. And it's an honor to know you guys.
Wow, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much,
And
man. That means so much.
exactly likewise, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
brother.
Same to you.
seriously. And I thank you for bringing this topic to the table today because
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of the most powerful conversations we've had in quite some time. We always talk about disclosure, but like getting this deep and breaking things down philosophically, I think was beautiful. And I can't wait for people to hear this because it's
Yeah.
gonna make some waves, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel so too. Thank you
Right.
guys.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We love you. Can't do this without you. Like I said, if you want to come hang out at the conference, there's still tickets available. JourneyToTruth.online. And grab my new book, Tales from Another Timeline, Bleed Through Tales from Another Timeline on Amazon. And that link is below in the description. All of your love and support is what truly keeps us going. Like I said, we cannot do this without you. So thank you. Good night. And until next time. Hello, and welcome to Conference Bone. If you know the name of the conference you'd like to attend, press 1.
Come on.
Using your touch-tone keypad, please enter the first 3 letters of the conference title now. You've selected Secret Space Conference? If that is correct, press 1.
What?
You've selected Full Disclosure Now. If this is correct, press 1. Why don't you just tell me the name of the conference you'd like to attend? Rebels of Disclosure? To find the venue nearest you, please enter your 5-digit zip code now. Why don't you just tell me where you want to attend the conference? Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center? Rebels of Disclosure is playing at the Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through 15th, 2025.
Yeah, now I got you.
If you would like to purchase tickets, please visit journeytotruth.online now.